that's the going word, is we're no man's land. We don't belong to El Paso, and I would like to narrow it down even from what you said, because you said from a state, but they actually feel that here presently, they don't feel like they belong to El Paso, and they don't belong to Las Cruces. And they feel like they don't have the resources that they need locally to support them. And so that is definitely one of those things that is burning on their hearts. And I want to see that change. And I've been having weekly meetings down there. And if I get in, I promise them that we're going to keep those meetings going. I want to hear from the community. And I'm actually going to start a Facebook page for them, because they feel like there's no communal place for them to voice. So there we go.
Thank you for that. So I agree with that sentiment. You know, it's even here in Las Cruces, you know, we people forget everything south of Las Cruces, and sometimes it can get pretty frustrating. But the original reason why I ran for this position was because we were ignored. And when I say we, in Chambedino, we were ignored. I moved to Chambedino in 1994. If you look at it today, it looks almost exactly like it did in 1994. So there hasn't been any improvements. There hasn't been anything going on. Well, the cell tower went up. So that's the improvements that we've had. But so I felt very strongly, and I feel very strongly, that bringing in infrastructure and quality of life type things are very, very important to my communities. So, for example, you know, community centers are very important. So I've worked with, you know, with my folks in Chambedino and Solon Park to bring in a community center. Parks are also very important. You know, I allocated capital outlay funds for a park in Santa Teresa, where before it was just a drain pond. There wasn't anything there. So quality of life type things are very, very important to me. And when we say that we feel forgotten, but it also comes with an independent street. You know, we don't want people from Cruces or from El Paso telling us what to do. And I believe that very strongly, and I've seen it in my community members and the people who I talk to, is, you know, we don't belong to Las Cruces, we don't belong to El Paso, but we really like to keep our independence.
Thank you.
All right, Olga.
I've been in Solon Park for over 40 years, and I participated in politics for over 20 years. One of my biggest concerns right now is, how do you do your networking, or you engaging the residents with the pandemic without putting us at risk? One of my concerns is that we do need the vote, we do need people representing us, but how do you do it without putting my people, my residents, low income, people who are not insured, elderly? How do you engage them without putting them at risk? Ms. Lett?
Just the same as when I go to Walmart. You know,
Explain, please.
We wear a mask, you keep 6 feet distance, and that's what we've been told to do. And you know, I think it is very important, and I think it has been very important to still communicate with those people, because a lot of them are feeling very lonely and very left out, and especially during campaign season. As always, they feel like their voice is not being heard. And so I think it is important to reach out to those people, and especially on the Republican side, because they're already a minority, and they feel very frustrated and left out.
I'm not sure that you answered my question, but how do you do your
like I said, whenever you go to those places that are permitted for us to go,
don't have a Walmart.
Like to Walmart.
But don't have a Walmart.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. But where do you do your grocery shopping? Where do you do your grocery shopping?
In El Paso.
Okay, so same thing. Wherever you do your grocery shopping, you have to adhere to those requirements, and that's what we do.
I still don't understand.
Representative?
Thank you for that. So it's been very, you know, I'm not going to repeat what's already been said. You know, it's been very challenging. But we have had to come up with creative ways to reach out to our constituents, to my constituents. Phone calls work, text messages work. But what I like and what I implement in my leadership style is I identify leaders in the community who will help me reach out to more people. So it's a basic, to me, the way I see it, it's a basic strategy of organizing. You identify key leaders and work your way out. So given that, I myself haven't gone door to door. I haven't sent anyone out to go to door to door.
That was my question.
I don't want to put anyone at risk. I don't. And I don't want to say, well, Representative Lara came by and I got sick. Or even myself. I have a son at home who has asthma, and I would hate to bring that home to him. And so I have to be very careful of how we approach these things. And but at the same time, we have to, and you mentioned it, Councilor Nunez. We have a lot of older people. We have a lot of people who are sick or who have a compromised immunity, and we have to respect that. And we have to. The way I say it, it's a cultural thing. You have to respect that.
Thank you.
Marcy,
Yes, sir. And we do have sound. Just later.
do we have sound?
Yes.
Okay.
We're on it.
Oh, it's not, no, I'm sorry. I'm getting reports from the people that I have watching that we have sound. I have my own secret network. Anyway, I apologize. So my question is, certainly your district is not one of the most financially stable districts, and certainly it is not considered, a very rich and prosperous district. And much of our state isn't. So how would you work to bring more jobs to New Mexico and specifically your district? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Marcy, for that question. And I've said this before. Why did Elon Musk fly over New Mexico? Why did he bypass us? Sunland Park, Santa Teresa would have been a perfect location for him. It would have been great for us as well. You saw that happen up in Rio Rancho where Intel came in, and it boomed Rio Rancho, and that was how they took off. I'm still going to write him a letter. I still want to reach out to him and say, hey, I know you went over us, but I just want to put our name out there on the map and consider us. In addition to that, even before I decided to run, I was tired and heartbroken of the poverty in our district, and I had wanted to start once a month workshops with SCORE, West, Arrowhead, have them come down to our community centers, which are underused. Taxpayers' money goes to these community centers, and they're hardly ever used. I want to see them be used and start workshops monthly with the community. Thank you.
Representative.
Thank you for that. That's a great question. So, as we know, Santa Teresa specifically, the port of entry and the industrial park, is the gem of southern New Mexico, if not the state. That's where the growth has been happening. That's where the jobs are happening. That's where it's all happening. We would have more, and Marcy, if I may address you, you're a business owner. Mm-hmm. So if we don't have the infrastructure in place for employers to come in and build, if we don't have the water, if we don't have the utilities, anything else like that, then they're not going to come in because many of these companies have to come in and build up from the ground up. So if we have the infrastructure in place, they can just ready move in, just like in Albuquerque or even in El Paso, they just ready move in. Another thing that we lack or that we need to work on is a stable workforce. So when companies come in, they scout the areas and they say, well, is there infrastructure? What's the workforce like? So if we focus on building that infrastructure and building that workforce, then we won't have companies flying over us and passing us by. Then we'll be more attractive and we build upon what we already have.
One of the questions I have, just building on what Marcy and Olga are saying, we have needs there in the community. I mean, one of them is, the infrastructure. So we have the Colonia's Infrastructure Trust Fund. But when you're talking about flying over, we're still waiting to fly out of the spaceport, So there is, but we we taxed ourselves as a county on top of what New Mexico was doing. And that tax is getting ready to sunset soon. So I guess it's a two-part question. Will you continue, if you're elected, and will you, as a representative, continue fighting for the Colonia's Infrastructure Trust Fund? And if the time comes for that tax in Doña Ana County to sunset, would you support us continuing to give money to the spaceport? Dawn.
To the spaceport, I'm not really informed on all of the spaceport issues, but going back to what I was saying about a company like Elon Musk moving down to that area in Sunland Park, I don't want to see taxes raised for our people. They can't. Already it's too high. And we can't do that to them. So I don't want it. I want the industries to come in and offer that to us, to work a deal with them into where they're inspired to build up that infrastructure and it not be on the people. It needs to be a blessing on the people, not a burden.
Yeah. Representative.
Thank you, Arturo. So two-part question, so we'll talk about spaceport first. So I have the privilege of sitting on the Finance Authority Oversight Committee. And it was revealed to us not too long ago that much, if not a significant portion of our taxes that we pay here are going to the operation of the spaceport, as opposed to the infrastructure. And if I recall correctly, the intent of this tax was to build that infrastructure for the spaceport, because we had the spaceport asking us as legislators for capital outlay money to expand the runway. Well, that was the purpose of the tax to begin with, not to fund positions or to hire people. So that was something that we're looking at, and that's something that's being questioned. Why were they allowed to do that to begin with? Second of all, the colonias. So 2021 is going to be a big fight for southern New Mexico in Santa Fe with that colonias fund. I have heard, and I've been told from very good sources, that there's a lot of eyeballs looking at this fund and wanting to pull money from there and even shut it down completely. So I can tell you now, and I'm going to tell everyone, all my constituents, I will fight tooth and nail for that. I will fight tooth and nail for that colonial fund, because I've seen the benefit of it and what happens to when it's utilized correctly.
Thank you. Olga.
On the basis of the capital outlay and protecting the colonial fund, Sunland Park has benefited from that specific fund for as long as I can remember. What would be, once elected, what is your plan to protect that fund? I was at Santa Fe this year, and I can see the rejection or just the division when it comes to helping or, just supporting communities to the south. What would be your plan to protect funds like the colonias?
Again, I want to see it build up from people increasing their wages, from there being job opportunities in the area. I'm not super familiar with the fund, but I'm not seeing where the fund has really helped. At least I've not seen it or heard anybody speak about it. And as Ray was saying, 1994, nothing's really changed. So I want to see it come more from the people instead of from other sources.
Representative.
I've had the pleasure of seeing those colonias dollars at work. In particular, I'm just going to all up and down the legislative district, but I'm going to talk about Sunland Park and specifically Anapra. And that neighborhood has had historic flooding issues. Yes. Many of those people are on fixed incomes. They own their homes outright. And so any talk of moving them or closing down that neighborhood is unacceptable to me. But given that Colonias Infrastructure Fund helped build a brand new extraction pump, 2 of them in Anapra. So whenever that happens again, if 2006 happens again, we have the 100-year flood, the residents of Anapra will know that their houses won't get flooded out because of the Colonias Infrastructure money that built or funded that pump. It also, one other thing that I've seen is wastewater. Many of our small communities have gotten wastewater, and that is because of the Colonias Infrastructure Fund, as well as drinking water. So it's there. It's not something glamorous or exciting, but it brings, it makes you feel good when you can flush a toilet and not have to worry about your septic tank backing up.
Thank you.
Marcy?
So I'll switch this one up and I'll ask Representative first this time, just to give us a little variety. So do you think the governor should have the unlimited power that she has exercised for the last 7 months? And what will you do to support or stop this power in January when we get back to Santa Fe?
That's a good question. So I think in some instances and with some of the things that have been happening, yes, I agree. I think sometimes there may have been some overreach, because the way I see it is, I feel that I've been left out of that decision-making process. And I understand, that she's the executive branch, we're the legislative branch. I understand that there's the two different governments there, but we as legislators, in particular the House of Representatives, we need to be more involved, and we need to make sure that we're part of that process that's been taking place. So, it's important, and sometimes I feel that we go a little overboard, and sometimes I feel that she's done a good job. So it's hard to balance the two, but I think if we had more input from our legislators, and because we live in the communities, we live in our districts, we know what's happening, and that I feel that more input from the legislature would be a lot better.
Dawn?
Yes, thank you, Marcy, for that question. Definitely, I feel like the way that it's been handled is very oppressive for the businesses. I think that it's eventually going to, it's not eventually, it's already hurting the people. People have already lost jobs, and so definitely, as a legislator, I want to go in and present that there has got to be a better solution to doing this. Other states aren't locking down as hard as we are, and they have comparable death rates at the same time. A lot of people may not be aware. I did not check today, but as of yesterday, in Doña Ana County, there's 62 deaths. We've been locked down for 7 months, and 218,000 people. And we've shut down all the businesses. And while I understand every life is precious, a lot of these people had comorbidities, and they would have gotten sick. Maybe if it were influenza, you can't say that they wouldn't have died from that. So we've got to lighten up. A lot of people are committing suicide. There's a lot of domestic abuse going on. We've got to open back up.
Thank you both.
All right. Olga?
On the issue of, and again, I'm very concerned about the impact that COVID has had, and you mentioned businesses. Unfortunately, Sunland Park does not have too many businesses. I understand that we need them. However, I don't believe that we need them, I believe that it's more important to put lives before even jobs, even businesses. How do we go back, to reopening? I understand. Sunland Park is right next to El Paso. El Paso right now is first place as far as the pandemic goes. So how do we open back up without sacrificing our residents? Mr. Lara.
Thank you for that. And we have to be cautious. We have to take the precautions that we take. We have to take. Wear your masks. Social distancing, gloves if you have them. Don't go out if you don't have to leave the home. Yeah, so it's a very complex issue with COVID and the border area. And what I mean by the border area is Texas, New Mexico. It's been happening. I've been sounding the alarm bell since April that our proximity to El Paso was going to put us at a greater risk. And but what we have to do is just be more aware of what's happening, be more conscious of what you're doing. Have your gatherings, have the 5 people or the 10 people whenever we get that, but at least don't. Be responsible about it. I believe in personal responsibility, and people need to take that responsibility for themselves on their own to protect themselves and their loved ones. And that's something that's really, really important if we're ever to overcome this pandemic that we're in.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
How do we go about the business of opening back up without sacrificing the lives of our constituents? I believe that we sort of have a division in regards to business versus lives, money versus a human being. How do we reopen up without sacrificing our residents?
Okay, well, and the way that I see that is if we don't open up business and get the economy flowing, people are gonna die. So if we stay home, people are gonna die because of financial reasons, of starving to death. They have to get out at some point. We have to get our economy going again. We have to get that. Again, you have to be wise in how you do it. Other states have done it. Other states have done it and been successful at it. And so there's no reason why we can't follow those same patterns. Again, if you're immune compromised, be wise. Be wise and take self-responsibility on how you do that, and help your neighbor. I mean, if you have those neighbors who are elderly, who are sick, help each other out.
All right, with that, we're going to take a break. Thank you for tuning in to the Las Cruces channel here today with Representative Ray Lara and the challenger, Ms. Dawn Ladd. We'll be back in just a moment. Thank you.
When I think of MVT, I can't help but think of the finest trucking company in the U.S. They provide a driver experience like no other. From regional routes to great pay, they make it a priority to make sure you feel right at home. As a truck driver, there are several companies to choose from, but I decided to drive with MVT, where they have state-of-the-art equipment and the best trucks in the industry, so you arrive at your destination safely and in style. I truly love what I do. After all, I'm proud to be with MVT.
Join the Mesilla Valley Transportation family.
All right, thank you very much for coming back with the 2020 New Mexico Candidates Forum. We have Representative Raymundo Lara and Dawn Ladd, and our commentators Marcy Dickerson and City Councilor Olga Nunez. With that, I want to go ahead and talk about the district. And one of the things that we've seen out in that area, especially like in Chamberino, are the flooding issues. I've talked to many of my friends and family in that district that have been dealing with the issues of flooding, whether it's in Vado, whether it's in Chamberino. What do you guys think, working with the county, are the issues that prevent our communities from getting any access to funding to prevent that when the monsoons come? Dawn?
Well, and I would take that back to poor planning. I don't think it's just a funding issue. I think it's poor planning because they can lay the asphalt down for the streets, but they don't do anything about drainage. And so what happens is year after year, those roads keep getting higher and higher than the people's yards, and then the water washes into their homes. So what it is really having adequate planning, forethought, strategic planning on, okay, we're not just going to slap some asphalt down and, we did our job. No, we need to sit down and say, how can we route this water in a way to where it's not going to flood the community, and it also in such a way that it recharges the aquifer. We need that too because we are so desperate for water. So, and then I am working on that with EBID.
Representative.
Thank you, Arturo. So flooding is a very big issue. Chambonino, La Union, many of the communities on the West Mesa, there are some on the East Mesa. And what it comes down to is there's a network of earthen dams up and down the Mesa. And they haven't been maintained. And that falls under the responsibility of several organizations or agencies. The first one is the Soil and Water Conservation District. The other is the Flood Commission. The county, not so much, and the BLM. So what we have is we have a lot of issues with these earthen dams that they haven't been maintained, so they've been wearing down, eroding. They've been eroding. So what's happened with that is many of those are behind or we have private property, and then the earthen dams right behind there. So many of these private property owners do not allow access to these earthen dams for maintenance or for whatever we need to do back there. So, just one in La Union, that's a very large one, that's at least $2 or $3 million just for one earthen dam. And we have several of them up and down the whole valley. So it is a huge issue. We're going to need to work with the Army Corps of Engineers, Soil and Water Conservation, and Flood Commission and BLM to make sure that we have access to these dams in order to maintain them.
Marcy.
My turn, okay. So we are definitely in the borderland. Your district is smack dab in the middle of the borderland. And we have a huge disparity between the minimum wages between the two states. New Mexico in January will go to $10.50. Texas is still, El Paso area is still at $7.50, I believe. How do you feel that the very high minimum wage in New Mexico has affected the opportunities for jobs and for companies to create jobs, especially in the border area, especially when we're so close to that lower labor charge? How do you feel? Has that had any impact on your area, positive, negative impact? Any thoughts on that?
Representative.
Yes, it has. It has had impact because I know many people, Solon Park and Santa Teresa in particular, and the southernmost part of the district, who work in El Paso. And I've spoken to several people that say, well, we're only getting paid $7.50 in El Paso, but over here I can work in fast food and get $10 an hour. And I don't know what the impact of that is, because I understood when this whole when this bill came up, and we were debating this in Santa Fe, I understood what impact it was going to have in my district, especially with our small businesses, because our small business cannot pay that higher minimum wage as opposed to Walmart or Target. So when my colleagues were looking at this, they were seeing the bigger picture. They were looking at the big corporations that can't afford to pay those higher wages. But the ones that were forgotten were the small business owners, and they couldn't afford that. So the impact to our state and to our area is I think we're going to get more people coming in from Texas wanting to work in New Mexico, and I don't know if that's good or bad.
All right, Dawn?
Yeah, so what I saw was it put a lot of small businesses out of business. They couldn't keep up with it, and I think that was disheartening. And now we've got COVID on top of that, so more small businesses are going under due to that. And I know several businesses here who, depending on how this election goes, they're looking at hopping over the border into Texas. It's just makes more sense for them to run a business over there, and then there is no income tax over there. So that's a lot of incentive for them to leave New Mexico and, go 40 minutes over the border and start shop over there. I think we just really need to look at better ways without raising taxes. You can raise the minimum wage and everything else is just going to go up. And we're in the same boat that we were previously. So we've got to, I believe New Mexico really needs to start tapping into those natural resources that we have as a state. We're one of the top in the nation for natural resources. We need to start tapping into that instead of raising taxes and burdening our people. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you. I'm just going to throw a question out there to both of you. And, where do you guys shop normally? I mean, we're right in the middle of, either going to Las Cruces or going to El Paso. Does that ever, where do you guys shop? Don?
It really depends on what I'm shopping for, to be very honest with
Okay.
you. Give me an example. Are we talking about food or?
Well, yeah, for me, sometimes it's easier to go to Anthony, Texas than Anthony, New Mexico because of La Feria. But it's one of those things, like, we live in an area that it's sometimes a little bit, we're right in the middle of
Right.
Cruces and El Paso. I just wanted to, where do you shop?
It depends. It depends, we really like to come over into Las Cruces to take care of that. But once in a while, when you need something quick, some flour tortillas or something, I'll run down to Anthony and go to La Feria and buy that stuff. But, it's interesting because, I'm glad you brought that up, because at one point, one of my colleagues had mentioned, well, when this COVID thing was happening, well, let's close the border from Texas to New Mexico. I said, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't force someone from Solon Park to drive 1 hour one way to come to Walmart when there's a Walmart just 10 minutes down the street. So, we have to be understanding and of the dynamics in the neighborhoods and the things that happen. But one of the, se me salió el español. So one of the things that happens is our communities and the border communities, we're very tied together. We have family, we have jobs, there's a lot of back and forth. So it just affects us in many ways, but it just depends. I like to spend my money in New Mexico, but once in a while I have to run down to Anthony, Texas.
City Councilor.
Once again, several of you brought up the fact that we're sort of like the forgotten land. As far as this, and Marcy brought up a good point. Once we go back to the legislation in Santa Fe, what are your strengths to maybe not allocate funds for our cities, but to defend the city, the projects that already exist, the projects that we are trying to work on? Because it has gotten to that, to where, the governor is, asking for money back. How would you defend the colonias? Ms. Lett?
Well, I think I'm going to have to look at each and every situation, and from there, look at what our options are. And then, of course, I'll listen, what do our constituents say? What do the people, their opinion matters a lot in this too. So listening to the needs of the people and listening to the options and the details of each of those. And I'm a very creative thinker. I'm very entrepreneurial spirited, and and I'm a fighter too. So I'm not going to quit on the people for sure.
Representative.
Thank you for that. So it's about relationships. It's about building coalitions. It's about helping each other out. So, when it comes to defending the colonias, the biggest weapon that I have in my arsenal is my no vote. So if I believe that it's not going to benefit our communities, or if I'm getting feedback from people from my communities, this isn't going to work, or this will work, that's my weapon. That's what I can use as my no vote. And even though we may have the majority in the House, but it still counts. They still look at us, and they still need us. So that would be the biggest thing that I could say is my no vote is what gives me the leverage that I need to use to fight for the communities in District 34.
Thank you, that was very specific.
Marcy?
How do you all, now, we've talked about, the immediate Santa Teresa border area, that it is primed for growth and there's things happening there. But other than that, how do you feel about growth in a lot of your smaller communities? And what would you do to either promote or prohibit that?
Representative.
Okay, thank you for that. I think, the district's very unique. The northern part of the district, there's a lot of agriculture. And the farther south we go, there's less agriculture and there's more business and things like that. So what would be best, and I've spoken to many people in my district about this, is we need to work on developing and or expanding agribusiness. But not just, not just pecans, not just cotton or anything like that, or milo or whatever they're growing. It's the smaller niche type things. So I had a really good conversation with the folks over at Stallman Farms yesterday. And they're trying some different things. They're growing mushrooms, they're doing all these other things. So I think it's these little niche markets that will make our area more attractive to tourism. Because as we know, many people from Texas, many people from Ciudad Juarez love going up and down Highway 28 on Saturday and Sundays. Supporting and working with the wineries. I have I have a very good relationship with our wineries, and I consider them to be good friends. And we need to look at those small niche type things that we can develop and grow to make our valley more unique.
Dawn?
Thank you, Marcy. I think that's a great question. And again, I feel like those communities, they each have their own spirit. And from that spirit, there's an entrepreneurial spirit that naturally rises up. What we need to do is be there to help them out, to back them up in how to do that, how to make it happen. But in addition to that, New Mexico is known for being very unfriendly to new businesses with regulations, with taxes. That needs to seriously be looked at and dealt with, because that stops people from being able to move forward. But going back to what I was talking before about having workshops with Arrowhead, with SCORE, and with West, they walk the people through. And I know, like on our end, even those farming communities, they have great ideas. In fact, I know someone who put in over $1 million in starting up his business there in Mesquite, and he lost everything because he got regulated to death by Santa Fe. That was an opportunity for the people there. The people loved the product, and we lost out because of regulations.
Talking about that, I don't know if you're talking about the shrimp farm that was, okay, so I want to talk about the shrimp.
We're hypothetically talking about that, but not that, is what I'm getting from her.
Okay, well.
So let's hypothetically.
So there's businesses that are in our community. That shrimp farm was one of them. And I felt it wasn't from Santa Fe. I thought it was from the county. I thought the county regulated them and got them out of business. So that was one business that I thought was a great business that people were supporting. There's other businesses out there that have started. I have friends that made a community hall, the Juan Tabo Center. They're from Mr. Sines. That gentleman, he just shut it down. So there are businesses that are out there that are trying, and they're being regulated. I don't know if it's Santa Fe, but what impact as you as legislators are you going to help those folks that are a small business trying to open up? Do you have any influence with what the county's doing in regards to codes and regulations? And Dawn?
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to get in there and fight to see that changed, for sure. It's got to change. And again, I think a lot of the people that live in those rural communities, they do want to keep it rural. They do want to keep their industry.
Yeah, but what are you gonna, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, we have to advocate for those businesses.
Absolutely.
I mean, as a citizen of that community,
Right.
I'm able to go to committees up in Santa Fe, I'm able to go to the county commission, I just think that there's things that we can do at not even being legislators, but representatives.
Thank you for that, Arturo. And what it comes down to is relationships. How do you work with others? How do you play with others? So unfortunately, I work very hard to build those relationships, and I work very hard to build that trust not only with the community but also with our other lawmakers, with our county commissioners.
But getting, the county commission and the county has regulated us out. What influence, as a representative, a sitting representative, do you have any influence on the county commission, the county regulations?
Yes, and that's going back to relationships. So the county at one time or another is going to come up to Santa Fe to ask us for money. So, okay, well, I'll help you out with this. And, it's about reciprocity. It's about working together. I have good, like I said, I have good relationships with my commissioners and with the county manager. So that is the number one hurdle that you have to go over to help out the people in the community. And fortunately, I have those relationships, and I've helped out many, many people with those types of issues. And it could be a very simple matter of just picking up the phone or sending an email. You'd be surprised what kind of response you get when you pick up the phone or send an email to support your constituents. Yeah, it's a very quick turnaround time sometimes. Yeah.
All right, with that, I want to go ahead and give you guys an opportunity to ask a question of each other. Don, you're challenging Mr. Lara, our representative. I'll give you the first opportunity to ask a question.
Thank you, Arturo. Okay, so, this was one of the things that really drove me into this running, was that I had been told that Ray Lara was a conservative Democrat, and I have found that not to be the case. And I have to say, one of my absolute heroes is Mother Teresa, and I think our constituents down there overall are conservative Democrats, and they're pro-life. And so my question would actually be, in knowing that you are openly endorsed and funded by Planned Parenthood, who is currently under criminal investigation by the Department of Justice for the illegal trafficking of human fetal tissue, I'm just wondering, with that in consideration, can we truly trust that you can be a voice for the people and not be a voice for special interest groups or for Santa Fe?
Representative.
Wow, what a loaded question. So first of all, let me make some corrections. I did not receive money from Planned Parenthood. You can check the reports, it's all on there. Second of all, let me see. So when I make my decisions and I vote in Santa Fe, I vote for what my constituents want. I had many, many people come up from my district, my legislative district, to ask me to support that particular bill. I had 0 ask me not to. It's not Ray that wants to make these decisions. It's what the people want. So, we can go on and on about this and that, and, but the thing is I vote what my constituents want. And it was a very hard decision. It wasn't easy. We got home that night at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. It weighed very heavily on me, and it made a big impact on me. But I knew that I was representing my people because they were the ones that asked for it. So to answer her question, I have no idea who does that.
All right.
Okay.
And then, Representative, you have an opportunity to ask Ms. Lara a question.
Yes, Don, we've known each other before, we had spoken to each other before. And my question to you would be, what qualities or what do you feel would make you a better legislator than the work that I've done?
Well, I can certainly say I've done my homework because I have the printouts from CFIS in my car showing your financial reports that you have taken in-kind contributions from Planned Parenthood. That would be one thing.
Splitting hairs.
I would say I have spoken with many of the people in our district, and they don't feel like they have been represented. And again, in speaking to my neighbors on both sides, they don't support abortion. So I think it would start there in that I would be a better voice for the people of the community because I actually listen to them instead of Santa Fe or special interest groups. And I would also like to point out that you say it's about relationships and getting things changed overnight, but why are we still in the same situation?
Well, he was asking a question, but.
I answered it and ended it with a question.
Yeah, but you only got one question. But let's go ahead and give you guys an opportunity. Don, go ahead and you have a chance to ask the voters for their votes.
Well, I just want to thank you, and I want to thank all the viewers. And this is probably the most serious election in our nation's history. So I do encourage you to get out and do vote. And I really want to fight for the people. I want to see our area grow in the opportunity that I know that we have, to the potential that I know that we have. I want to see small businesses just be plentiful down there. And we've been Democrat now for about 80 years or so. It's time to try something new. And actually, I know nobody likes to hear this, but the truth of the matter is that conservative Democrats are today's Republicans. Just a lot of people are not familiar with that because most traditional Democrats, the JFK kind, they don't endorse abortion. And so, I know this is a big issue with a lot of my neighbors. And so, I just want to encourage people to look into that. So thank you for that opportunity.
Representative, you got a chance to ask the voters for your.
Thank you, Arturo. My name is Ray Lara. I'm your current state representative. And I think my track record shows that I have been very inclusive and I have been very accommodating and very open-minded as far as bringing things back and bringing benefits back to our communities. I am not a one-issue candidate. I look at everything, and I talk about everything, and I look at everything. So that said, people of House District 34, you've trusted me these past 2 years. You've seen the improvements. You've seen things working, and I would ask for your support so we can continue doing these things, continue to building that infrastructure, continue building that quality of life for our people who need it very much. Once again, my name is Ray Lara. I ask you for your support. Thank you very much.
All right. With that, I just want to say thank you to the viewers. Thank you to the candidates. I wish you good luck on your campaign. And thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, we had pretty lively debate there. I was just kind of curious, like, City Councilor, what was your take on the candidates?
Well, I got the same impression last time. I'm afraid I was very likable, but unfortunately, she does not know our community. I'm a very relationship kind of person. I'm people oriented, and it's the same platform, pro-life, pro-guns, and that's not. I don't think that's a whole lot of the responsibility. And what they do have authority over, she doesn't know. And I think it's very important as candidates to be informed, to get to know our community. And there's ways, without putting our residents at risk, there's ways to know the people. There's ways to build relationships. I'm a hardcore Christian. Do I believe government should be telling me what to do with my body? Absolutely no. And it's very hypocritical for us to say, we have a right to own guns, but the government can tell us what to do with our body. No. It's not, I don't think that's right for my community at all. Thank you.
Marcy, what was your take?
I would have a debate with me and Olga.
That's the next series.
I was like, Olga and I would have a really good time having a debate. 'Cause, I mean, obviously you had Republicans and Democrats on this side, and we got, some different views on things. I think both of these candidates, I think they were both knowledgeable. I think they both did it. I'm not going to speak like Olga did about, the intimate knowledge of the issues in her community, because I don't have them, because I'm not from there either. So I would never say that I know more about her community than she does. I certainly think that, the biggest issue, I think, for all of our elections, and I say this at the end of every debate, is that people have to get out and vote. New Mexico's got one of the lowest voter turnouts ever. We've always had low voter turnout. It seems this time we're getting a little better, doesn't it? There are people lining up in your community. They're lining up here. But the biggest thing is that, two things. We want people to advocate and fight for us in southern New Mexico, and to stand up and scream at the top of their lungs for us and for what benefits us as an overall community. And the other thing is, we want the people elected to really be the people that represent and were picked by the majority of our people, not just the special interests, not just, that type of thing. And that's really important. We need everybody to get out and vote. We need all of the people out there, exercising their right, showing their voice. And whichever candidate that the people choose, then I certainly hope that they go to Santa Fe and they scream at the top of their lungs to make sure that those issues that you guys brought up about flooding, about jobs, about those kind of things, are taken care of, that your Colonias Fund is defended, because you're absolutely right. If there is a quarter left under a chair in Santa Fe this year, she's gonna take it back. Because we're, what we say, $7 billion in the hole is what our estimate. That money is not gonna fall from the sky. So I think our voters really need to, see who advocates for their community the best and go with it that way.
I agree.
One of the things that was really striking to me, and it's been kind of a common thing that's been happening throughout these forums, is that these are folks that are asking us to hire them for a job to represent us. And it's disheartening when people don't know the issues of the community that are directly impacting them, or aren't aware of the bills or the things that are in place right now that are bringing us infrastructure, bringing us parks, roads. Those, that Colonia's Infrastructure Trust Fund is very important to all of us down here.
And if I could correct you, Arturo, it's not that we're hiring them. That's part of the problem, that mentality right there. Because first of all, they have to have the spirit of servant leadership, which a lot of them lack. You go to Santa Fe, and it's not visible. Yeah. We need people who are willing to serve, not to necessarily work.
Yeah. Okay. And I agree with you. So, I agree with you there. But truly, we are hiring them through our votes. They're asking us, and those that participate in the election. Whoever gets the most votes gets hired. And that's up to you, the viewing audience. That's up to us, the voters. That's up to those folks in our county. Do your own research. Be informed voters. We're doing our best to bring the candidates here that are asking for our votes to engage with you so that we can have the opportunity during this pandemic to meet them. And this is how we're doing it, here with the Las Cruces channel. So thank you for those that participate. Thank you very much for my commentators, Marcy, Olga, you guys are awesome. And thank you to the folks out there. I'd like to say thank you to Mesilla Valley Transportation, Southwest Organizing Project, and the Las Cruces channel. Remember, vote to live and live to vote. Have a good night.
Thank you, Arturo.
think of MVT, I can't help but think of the finest trucking company in the U.S. They provide a driver experience like no other. From regional routes to great pay, they make it a priority to make sure you feel right at home. As a truck driver, there are several companies to choose from, but I decided to drive with MVT, where they have state-of-the-art equipment and the best trucks in the industry, so you arrive at your destination safely and in style. I truly love what I do. After all, I'm proud to be with MVT.
Join the Mesilla Valley Transportation family.